manipulation tactics, the hidden forces that control you. Have you ever had a thought that didn't feel like your own? You're scrolling your feed. Suddenly a post grabs your attention, not because you care, but because it hit a nerve. It made you feel angry, or sad, or superior. You pause, you read, you engage. You've just been manipulated. And here's the terrifying part. You didn't even notice. We live in a world designed to pull your strings. You think you're making choices, but in reality, your choices are being made for you. Not through force, not through laws, but through psychology, design, and data. Welcome to the age of invisible control. Let's start with your emotions, because that's the first point of attack. You see, emotion is faster than reason. You feel before you think. So if I want to control your behavior, I don't need to convince you of anything. I just need to make you feel something powerful enough to bypass your logic. Anger, fear, outrage. These are the golden keys. They light up the most primal parts of your brain. The moment you react emotionally, you are no longer thinking clearly. You are vulnerable, and that's when the message is inserted. That's when the behavior is guided. You think you're choosing to respond, but you're actually being puppeteered. And this isn't random, it's algorithmic. It's data-driven. Every scroll, click, and pause feeds the machine. It learns what makes you tick, what breaks your attention, what keeps you up at night. Then it gives you more of that. Not to enlighten you, not to empower you, but to keep you locked in the loop. Now let's talk about division, because one of the easiest ways to control people is to divide them. Have you noticed how everything feels like a war now? Politics, identity, beliefs, even preferences in food or media. It's not a coincidence. You're not meant to unite, you're meant to fight. Because divided people are easier to manage. When you're busy hating your neighbor, you're not questioning the system. When you're distracted by tribalism, you're not asking who built the tribe. Polarization is profitable, outrage is viral, and division is strategic. There's a method called controlled opposition. It's when those in power create or endorse both sides of a debate. They make each side extreme. They make sure the conversation stays shallow, emotional, and endless. And while everyone's yelling, they quietly pass policies, consolidate control, and move the pieces behind the curtain. But let's go deeper. Have you ever asked why you want the things you want? That car, that phone, that lifestyle. Desire is not organic anymore. It's manufactured, marketed, inserted into your subconscious like a virus. Every advertisement, every influencer, every trending video, it all plays on the same principle. If I can control what you desire, I control how you act. But it goes even further than that. In today's society, your identity isn't just something you discover, it's something you're sold. Platforms push identity politics, niche tribes, and curated personas. You're told what you are, who you should be, what you should represent. It feels empowering, but it's really just branding. You're becoming a consumer product in human form, something predictable, something moldable. Because once your identity is defined externally, it can be manipulated externally. And when it comes to social validation, don't even get me started. The entire architecture of modern platforms is built to reward compliance. Like share, follow, conform. It's a digital Skinner box. You perform, you get a dopamine hit. You deviate, you get ignored or punished. And here's the darkest part. They don't need to control everyone. Just enough people. Just the loud ones. Just the influential ones. And the rest will follow. Because most people don't want to think. They want to belong. They want to feel safe. And manipulation thrives in that need. But what about freedom? Isn't the modern world full of choices? That's the illusion. Yes, you can choose what to wear, what to watch, what to order, but those choices have been pre-selection for you, curated, filtered, engineered to guide you toward predictable outcomes. You think you're choosing, but you're just selecting from a narrow range of manipulated options. True freedom isn't about choices. It's about awareness. And awareness is the one thing manipulation can't survive. Once you see the strings, you start asking who's pulling them. Once you recognize the tactics, you become harder to program. So let's expose more of them. Manipulators use urgency. They create fake scarcity, limited time offers, countdown clocks, only 3 left in stock. These are not facts. These are psychological traps. They trigger your survival instincts, make you act fast, think less. Then there's guilt tripping, emotional blackmail. Phrases like, if you really cared, you would, or don't be one of those people. These aren't arguments, they're weapons, designed to make you doubt yourself, to put you on the defensive. Or consider the tactic of association. Attach your message to a symbol, a hero, a trend, a movement. People won't question it. They'll absorb it without resistance, because if they reject the message, they feel like they're rejecting the symbol. This is how propaganda works. Wrap a lie in something beautiful and no one will dare touch it. And censorship, it's no longer about banning, it's about drowning. Flood the system with noise, with distractions, with 10 versions of the truth. Make people so overwhelmed, so fatigued, they stop looking for answers altogether. That's the real censorship, not the erasure of information, but the smothering of it. We are living in the most sophisticated psychological control system in human history, and most people will never notice. They'll defend their manipulators, they'll mock the ones who speak out, because deep down, facing the truth is terrifying. It means accepting that your thoughts, your desires, your identity might not be yours at all. But if you're still watching this, then something inside you is waking up. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's clarity, maybe it's curiosity. Good, hold on to that, because that's the crack in the program. That's where your freedom begins. Let's look at something more subtle. The normalization of absurdity. You ever scroll past something completely insane? Something that would have shocked society 10 years ago, but has slowly been accepted by the population. When outrageous behavior is consistently displayed, it eventually stops being outrageous. It becomes background noise. You laugh at it. You scroll past it. You normalize it. This tactic is ancient. Desensitize the public. Overwhelm them. Then introduce new norms while they're numb. They're not just changing your opinions, they're warping your baseline of reality. This is where meme culture, shock media, and grotesque trends come into play. It's not just entertainment, it's engineering. A society that laughs at its own collapse is easier to control than one that resists it. Now let's talk about false empowerment. You're told every day that you are free, that you're empowered, that you have a voice. But your voice is only heard if it fits the acceptable narrative. You're allowed to rage if it's within the lines. You're allowed to express yourself if it's in pre-approved language. Step outside those invisible boundaries, and the very system that applauds free expression will turn on you instantly. You'll be silenced, not with violence, but with silence, shadow banned, demonetized, ignored, labeled. This isn't freedom, it's a curated sandbox of expression. You can play, but only within the lines they draw. Even your outrage is a product. Even your resistance is monetized. They sell you your own rebellion. Now let's explore data manipulation. Your data isn't just being collected, it's being weaponized. Every click, every pause, every typo, every video you didn't finish watching. It's all part of a psychological profile being built in real time. It doesn't just predict your behavior, it shapes it. Ever noticed how you start wanting things you never searched for? That's not magic, that's predictive programming. The system knows you better than you know yourself. It knows when you're tired, when you're lonely, when you're vulnerable. And that's when it strikes, not with a knife, but with a notification, with a product, with a carefully timed suggestion. This is surveillance capitalism. They don't need to control your body, they control your mind. Let's take this further. Influencer manipulation. We are no longer influenced by thinkers, we're influenced by trendsetters. The modern influencer isn't an expert. They're a personality, a brand, and most of them are not free. They are carefully managed assets. They promote what they're told. They speak within the safety lines, and when they do rebel, it's usually part of the script. The illusion of rebellion is profitable. They sell you lifestyle over substance, aesthetic over truth, and slowly you begin to mimic. You talk like them, you dress like them, you think like them. Not because you admire them, but because you fear being irrelevant. And here's the truth. Irrelevance is now a modern fear. You don't fear death. You fear being forgotten. You fear being invisible. And the system uses that. It makes you post, perform, compete, overexpose. You become your own product. You monetize your personality, your privacy, your pain. You are now branding your trauma. And you think you're empowered, but you're actually enslaved. Because the second you stop performing, you disappear. Let's talk about the illusion of choice. Modern life feels like it's full of options. So many stores, so many platforms, so many opinions. But most of them lead to the same place. The same owners, the same values, the same data funnels. It's a funhouse mirror of diversity, but when you strip away the colors, it's the same structure, just repeated endlessly to create the illusion of freedom. You didn't choose the system. You were born into it, and by the time you had the awareness to question it, you were already dependent on it. So what's the point of all this? Why would anyone go through this effort? The answer is simple. Control. Not control over your body. Control over your perception, your values, your sense of what is real. Because once someone owns your perception, they own your life. Now let's examine a more terrifying tactic: crisis manufacturing. When society becomes predictable, people become alert. So to maintain control, the manipulators introduce cycles of chaos: health panic, financial crash, war, social unrest, sometimes real, sometimes orchestrated, but always used. Because in a crisis, people surrender freedom for security. It's not about solving the crisis, it's about using it. A frightened public will do anything for a feeling of safety. They'll accept surveillance, they'll welcome censorship, they'll even police their own neighbors. And once those controls are accepted, they don't go away. They become permanent. Crises become doors, and every door leads deeper into the cage. You must understand this. They are not managing society, they are programming it. And the more predictable you become, the more expendable you are. You are not supposed to think, you are supposed to obey, smile, scroll, comply. But what if you stop? What if you disrupt the cycle? What if you become the unpredictable variable in a system designed for control? That is where resistance begins. Not in protests, not in hashtags, but in awareness. In seeing the patterns, in questioning the source, in refusing to react the way they expect. Awareness breaks the algorithm. Awareness is dangerous, because once enough people wake up, the system begins to fracture. And when the system fractures, control becomes impossible. But awareness isn't enough, not anymore, because the system has accounted for that too. It knows some of you will wake up. It knows some of you will resist. That's why it creates traps within the resistance. Fake gurus, faux revolutions, movements that feel like rebellion, but are actually just controlled explosions. Loud, impressive, harmless. You think you're breaking free. You're just being redirected. The system's greatest trick is not oppression, it's absorption. It doesn't stop opposition, it swallows it, monetizes it, converts it into another brand, another product, another algorithm. That's why the real resistance has to be internal first. If your mind is still programmable, then your rebellion is still rented. So how do you escape? First, you must reclaim your attention. Your attention is the most valuable currency in the world. More than gold, more than oil. Attention is the fuel of this machine. Without it, the algorithms starve. The influencers fade. The narratives collapse. Reclaim your attention, and you break their grip. Turn off the feed, let the screen go black, let your own thoughts be louder than the noise. Second, you must relearn how to think. Critical thinking is not skepticism, it's not contrarianism, it's not outrage. It's the ability to hold a thought, dissect it, trace its origin, observe its function. You must ask, who benefits if I believe this? Every emotion, every belief, every trend. Ask that question, because manipulation only works on those who don't question the source. Third, master your emotions. You must become untriggerable. You must stop being a puppet of your feelings, because as long as your emotions are reactive, someone else will drive them. And they'll drive them toward a destination you didn't choose. Practice silence, stillness, discipline. You must become boring to the system, unpredictable, immune. Then, and only then, can you begin to see clearly. Next, reconnect with truth. Not the version fed to you, not the one trending, but the one that emerges when the noise dies down. Truth isn't found in headlines. It's found in patterns, in contradictions, in silence. It's found in the questions they won't let you ask, the books they won't let you read, the people they tell you to hate. The closer you get to truth, the more resistance you'll feel. That's how you'll know you're on the right path. And finally, become a force of sovereignty. Not a preacher, not a savior, just someone who cannot be moved by lies. You don't need a platform. You don't need a megaphone. You just need to be real in a world that is increasingly fake. Every time you refuse the lie, you destabilize the machine. Every time you choose authenticity over attention, you weaken the system. Every time you protect your mind, you reclaim your freedom. This war isn't fought with weapons. It's fought with awareness, with discipline, with choice. They have the platforms, the influence, the data. But if you hold your mind, you win. That's the paradox they fear the most. That one individual who cannot be programmed holds more power than 1 million followers lost in illusion. So if you've made it this far, let me tell you this. You are dangerous now, not because you're loud, but because you're awake. Because now you see the pattern. Now you feel the strings. And now you are learning how to cut them. The world will not applaud you for this. In fact, it will try to pull you back in. You will be mocked, labeled, dismissed. That's the price of freedom in a world addicted to control. But the reward is everything. Peace of mind, clarity, authenticity, power. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that cannot be dominated. Walk differently now. Think slower, speak less, observe more. Because once you stop being a product, once you stop being a pawn, something incredible happens. You start becoming yourself again. And in a world full of actors, that's the most dangerous thing you can be. So now you know. You've seen the strings, you've felt the pull, you've tasted the lie. The question is, what will you do now? Will you scroll to the next distraction and forget everything you've heard? Or will you stop, Pause and take your mind back. You don't need to change the world overnight. You just need to change your relationship with it. Start small, start real. Audit your feed, cut the noise, question what you consume, watch how you react, and ask yourself, whose emotion is this, mine or theirs? Reclaim your time, reclaim your mind, reclaim your sovereignty. And if you found value in this, don't keep it to yourself. They win when we stay silent. They thrive when we stay divided. But truth, real truth, spreads in whispers before it roars. So share this, not for likes, hated, not for followers, but for the one person who needs to hear this more than anything right now. You may never meet them, you may never know their name, but if you light a fire in just one mind today, you've already broken the cycle. And that's how real change begins. Not with noise, with clarity, not with rage, with awakening. If you're ready to go deeper, subscribe, stay alert, stay sharp, stay free. This isn't the end, it's just the beginning. They can't control a mind that sees clearly. And now you see.